So I've always loved maps since I was a really, really young child. My dad taught me to map read when I was very young, and I've always just loved the concept of them, the fact that people go out and check that there are roads there and mountains there and what height they are and all that kind of stuff and put it on a map, and then we totally trust that the maps are accurate and correct and use them to get around. But I also think aesthetically they're so beautiful. They have amazing colours and shapes and lines, and I've been using maps in my artwork for probably about 8 or 10 years now. I'm really drawn to the colours and the shapes, and I don't really care much about the geography, the specifics of the actual place. It's always nice if it's a piece that is from Wales, where I grew up, or Cape Cod, where I live now, or maybe somewhere that I had a really nice vacation or something. But for the most part, I'm really much more interested in the colours and the shapes and the lines. I particularly like layering different pieces. They become very sort of messy, but they're very fragile. If you see how the pieces are like lace, each individual page, but when they're all together, there's a sort of resilience about them. So it's kind of unusual for me to make a piece that is related to like the times that we're living in or anything like that. But this piece, which is called Atlas of the World, is very much part of what's going on now. I'm really interested in the idea of quilts, and there's a big tradition in American history of women making quilts in the evenings, and everybody just sort of wrote them off as like, arts and crafts projects. But in fact, these women were making amazing pieces of art with an immense amount of historical reference in them, and that's always really inspired me. So this piece is about how the whole world was in the pandemic, and it's made from a 1909 atlas, which I was really drawn to because it survived 2 world wars, it survived the 1918 flu, all kinds of generations of kids have been using it, to learn about the world. I tried to get as many countries in it as I possibly could into each patch of the quilt. The center of it is Cape Cod, where I live, and just to the right of that is Wales, where I grew up, right here. But I tried to get as many countries and as many areas of the world as I could in there. And then the jar at the bottom here is, it's all the offcuts, all the pieces that I cut out of it. So this is my sort of expression, I call it my lockdown labor of love. So this is a book that was given to me by a friend of mine who's Jewish, and her father and she had done a lot of traveling in Israel, and she gave me a whole ton of his maps when he died. And I just love the sort of chunky roads here with these little colorful borders and the dots, and they're just various different tours in throughout Israel. And you can't see them from the front, but there's actually a lot of different colors in the backs too. The different tours and different sections were in different colors. So, but the ones that show are the green and brown. So one of the most exciting things about this residency for me is the opportunity to make something really big, much bigger than I could ever make in my own art studio. So I'm creating a map that is about 8 feet by 11 feet. I was struck by the idea that roads connect us and borders divide us. So I've cut hundreds of roads and borders and rivers and railroad tracks and anything linear from dozens of different maps. And I'm gluing them on to this map in one continuous line. The idea being that the one continuous line connects us all, but doesn't divide us because you can move around.